Jeffrey Purtee, title A Blessing in Disguise. A Blessing in Disguise, Jeffrey Purtee.
The year was 1973. 3 weeks after getting my driver's license, I buy my first car. A fire engine red 1961 Chevrolet Impala. One of the longest cars Chevrolet ever made. 3 weeks after buying my brand new Chevrolet Impala, I decided to go for a ride because you're young, you've got some time off, and you've got a 1961 Chevrolet fire engine red Impala. Off I go. 2 blocks from my house, I decide I don't like what's on my AM radio. So I'm leaning down, playing with the fiddle while I'm driving along, and I find the station I want just in time to raise my head, bam, and run right into a parked car. 6 weeks after getting my driver's license, 3 weeks after buying my new car, well, 1961, I have my first accident. Now, I gotta tell you, for my 61 Chevrolet, made of good old Detroit steel, approximately an inch thick, I dented my front fender. Unfortunately, the car I ran into was a 1971 Ford Maverick, made, as near as I can tell, of tinfoil. I crushed the poor gentleman's car. That accident, which I thought was, at that point in my life, the worst thing that ever happened to me, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The reason is this: no one was hurt. I had insurance, paid for the repairs on his car. And how they repaired it, I'm sure I don't know, because I couldn't see anything left of the front of his car, but somehow they did. They paid for the repairs on my car. And as I said earlier, no one was hurt. And overnight, I went from arrogant, full of himself, teenage driver who thought he was indestructible to a careful, middle-aged driver that I've been to this day. Now, that was in 1973. I'm now 62 years old, and I have since that day been 45 years accident-free. And I have 3 tips I want to share with you, among many habits I've developed over the years to be accident-free, that might help you be accident-free as well. Tip number 1, never blast through a blind intersection. Now, I have to tell you, this tip drives my lovely wife crazy. Because Elizabeth is a young lady in a hurry. She's got places to go. Me, on the other hand, I want to get there alive. So I never blast through an intersection. What do? I've developed this habit over years and years. When I'm approaching an intersection and I see a green light or it's an unmarked and they've got stop signs, I never just keep going on. I move my foot to the brake pedal. I subtly slow down. I don't slam on the brakes, but I slow down just a little bit until I have confirmed that no one is coming from either side to T-bone me in the middle of that intersection. I've seen this happen, although it hasn't happened to me, fortunately, because I am so careful, but I can't tell you how often in my 45 plus years I've seen this happen to other people. I was once in Charlotte, North Carolina, sitting at a stoplight, and a car came roaring by on my left. It was just a red light, but they clearly weren't paying attention, and they smashed right into a car that was right in front of me. Hit it so hard, knocked both cars into the following curb. I mean, that's just one example of the things I've seen. So I never blast through an intersection. I always slow down. Now, the way I like to confirm is, what I really like to see is cars on this side not moving. Then I feel safe. But until I've kind of confirmed there's nothing coming through, I've got my foot on that brake, slowing down. Now, let me ask an unsolicited testimonial. Does this drive you crazy? Drives her
Stopping on
crazy.
greens drives me crazy.
That's right. Slowing down, approaching a green light drives her crazy.
And the honking people behind you.
That's right, and the honking people behind me. Tip number 2. And I just saw the light flash red, green, yellow, and I have no idea where I am.
I kicked it so it reset. You're on evaluation time right now.
Okay. Tip number 2. We've been taught this from beginning of our driver's ed. Green light, go. Red light, stop. Yellow, slow down. Well, I'd like to modify that for you, and it is this tip right here. Green light, pause. That's kind of like the other tip of never blasting through. You know, I have to tell you kind of a sad story in this instance. We live in a 24-hour drinking town. That's just the way Reno is. It's like Las Vegas. People come to party, they drink all the time. So you never know when inebriated drivers are on the road. And right out here on this corner, at the 4-way stop outside of NV Energy, I had come to my usual full stop, and I was doing my left, right, pausing, and an older gentleman, which I happened to see, came roaring through his part of the 4-way stop without so much as a pause or a glance. Now, fortunately, it wasn't an accident, but he didn't even pause. He was going about 35, zoom, right through. And I've seen that again and again, and the other problem, of course, with that is if you don't pause, you just never know who, like people we won't name, but might be in a hurry, looking to get the last end of that yellow light, which is really a red light. So that's my second tip. Green light means pause. Look, make sure nothing's coming, and then go. My final tip is a bit of an odd one, and I actually didn't learn this until midlife. My stepfather, was a postal worker for many years, and one of the things they teach you in postal work is you go to a driving school. And his instructor told him that he's passed on to me, and I've never forgotten. Do you know what, on a day-to-day basis, is the single most dangerous place you're ever going to be? Anybody? The parking lot. Now, why would that be? The reason is this. If you think about it, when we are out in traffic, we know the rules. We go on the right side of the road, at least in correct countries. There are countries that drive on the wrong side of the road, like Great Britain, but that's why we kicked them out of our country in the Great Revolution, because they drove on the wrong side of the road. We drive on the right side of the road. We stop where lights are. We know how to merge in traffic. But parking lots are the last zone of the wild, wild west. You never know what people are going to do. They shoot across various parking areas. Pedestrians are stepping out without even looking. It is an incredibly dangerous area. So that's another tip that I picked up midlife, which is always be exceptionally careful in parking lots. It is the single most likely place you are going to have an accident. You might think, well, it's going to be slow speed. Yes, it may be, but if it's slow speed and you just run over a pedestrian, that's still going to be a very bad accident. 45 years, knock on Formica, I've had the good fortune to be accident-free following these free tips. I encourage you to adopt them, turn them into habits as well, and hopefully none of us will ever have a bad accident in our car.